Hello, we are joined by Adrian Yanez. He fights on March the 20th against Gustavo Lopez. Adrian, you're a UFC bantamweight fighter, 12-3. You got some hype behind you now after that UFC debut win. It was an incredible win. Just look back at that now. It seemed like you were really composed after that win, as if you kind of expected the head kick. Was that something you expected? Was it something you planned?
Yeah, it was one of those things that like the week of, I've kind of saw it. I went back and looked back at his fights, and I was like, well, if there's any time I'm gonna hit a head kick knockout, it was gonna be this one. I saw that there was openings for it, and then like during the fight, like once I caught him against the fence, he turned. He tried to turn and run away, but it was just perfect. It was just perfect for me just to launch it. Like it was perfectly timed because I knew he was gonna try to run out because I cut off the cage on my right side, so he had to move to his right, and I was already in the switch stance, so I just launched the left head kick. So I honestly kind of envisioned myself getting the head kick knockout. I kind of figured throughout the training camp once I got the new opponent and Victor, I kind of figured it's like I think it's all gonna come through. It's gonna come true because I just see it, and I felt like I was seeing it the whole entire time I was watching these new fights.
After that fight, what was emotions like for you? Because that was the UFC debut. You'd built your whole career, your whole life for this. You know, it was part of your dream and your father's dream to do this. So what were the emotions like for you after? Was it just happiness?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. I was just happy. I was just happy to be in the moment. I was kind of just living in that certain moment at that time. Because I wasn't trying to look past anything. I wasn't trying to think about what was next. I was just really enjoying the present. And at that moment, I can still feel it today. Like I was like even the walkout, being in the cage, just being just like there, present in the moment. Because man, to me that was the biggest thing. I worked my whole like career just to get to that moment, and I wasn't gonna let myself overcome with nerves just to have those UFC jitters and everything. But like for me, I was just like being present in the moment. So I got past any nervousness, any jitters. I wasn't trying to put up no front, no nothing. So whenever after I got that win, I was just like, man, this is like I'm officially in the UFC. Yeah, I got signed on by the Dana White Contender Series. I got signed by the UFC then, but like I'm officially in the UFC. I'm 1-0 in the UFC, so I'm official. I'm super official. So I was just taking it in, and just it was kind of it felt real good just to do it, just to get there because I worked really long and hard, endless nights, man. Man, blood, sweat, and tears, legitimately, man. So it was a lot.
You talk about all the hard work you put into it. The story began a long time ago. Your father was a huge figure in that. Can you talk about how you got into MMA and what kind of role your father played and joining Metro Fight Club?
Man, it was a big role. My dad was a big role in my life, especially whenever I was younger. We'd be watching all the boxing fights, like because that was when my dad was whenever he was in his teenage, whenever he was a teenager. He was in boxing, and that's primarily what my dad did. Even like growing up, that's all we had on. That's all we had on. We were watching Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, uh, and all those guys, Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, all those guys. So I was like kind of grew up just watching like combative sports. So it was just one of those things that to me that I just like anytime I saw someone fighting or someone boxing, someone doing something like combative, I just always just admired them. So it was just one of those things for me that it was going to be inevitable for me to do that. I did do karate whenever I was younger for like about 2 years, but it just nothing came about it. And then like we were looking for boxing gyms and everything. It just there was just a lot of things going on at those moments, and then finally, man, it wasn't even. I went to the mall with my mom and ended up like finding a gym in a mall with my mom. So it was weird, but once we signed up, a couple years went by, and then I just felt like I needed something more, something new. So my dad actually did all the calling all around Houston, and the first place we visit was Metro Fight Club. And once we got to Metro, like just walking in, we saw the pictures uh, in the old gym. Like the front lobby was filled up with many pictures of my coach Saul Solis with all the past fighters he trained and everything. And from that point on, I didn't even have to go to the back to see like the cage, the bags, or anything. I was already in. And my dad, like whenever we walked in, he let us watch his private training session with another person. And my dad was just pinpointing everything that what my coach is doing. He's like, he got this novice that he's working with, but he's making him look high level by just the basics and everything. And to me, my dad like chose it. So he's like, y'all aren't leaving here. And pretty much since then, we never left. And I still got my coach with me today. And if it wasn't for him or for like that whole like scenario going on, man, I wouldn't be in this position.
Did your father being a boxer, did that help with your boxing ability? Because when you see you fight, especially in your UFC debut, your head movement, your composure when you're striking, it's very much of a boxer. Do you have any kind of inspiration of becoming this kind of fighter from your father?
Man, yes, I would have to say yes, because my dad had always told me at the end of the day, like, whenever you're fighting, you want to take as least damage as possible. Boxing, it's the sport of hit and not getting hit. And that's always stuck big headed. Like I used to like. Don't get me wrong. I love the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward fights, man. Those are just like man, barn burners that are great, man. They like people live for those type of fights. People remember those type of fights, even if they don't have the greatest records or anything like that. But my dad had always told me, is like, the sport of boxing is hitting and not getting hit. And I just kind of just took that over into MMA and just try to keep that same mindset. And then also plus like after I had a jaw break and then I had another jaw break. So I had two fractured jaws in the same year. And pretty much my dad was like, look, you got to change something up. And my coach was like, yep, you got to change something up. You can't get hit. You got to change something. You can't go gun ho like how you want to be. You got to box. You got to be more technical. You got to move your head, especially if you want longevity in MMA. So it all like just kind of came together. And now that's the exact type of fight I like to be in. I like to be calm. I like to be composed because, man, like you see those guys who go intense and then all their energy zapped. So, man, I'm very inspired by both of them. So it's great for me.
Yeah, and a lot of hard work has gone into this. You got your shot on the Dana White Contender Series, and you did it in emphatic fashion. It was like 30 seconds. It was the 5th fastest finish in UFC history. Would you be willing to explain us kind of the story behind that? In terms of, in a promo, you were talking about how your father and you envisioned getting a UFC contract, and then your father sadly passed away in 2016. Could you just explain us the story behind the whole getting onto the Dana White Contender Series?
Man, it was just a nuts situation, like getting on the Contender Series, because I felt like I was a couple fights more away, because I had lost to Miles Johns, then I had a fight against a late notice opponent after that, and it wasn't the greatest record. Then I fought this other guy who had a decent record. Then I fought Kyle Estrada, who had a pretty good record, who's fought UFC level talent. And I know if I got the win over him, it would shoot me up. But I felt like I needed a little bit more. Fights. Like I thought I was still further away than what I was. And then especially with me having the record at the time, I was 10-3. I felt like I needed more wins. So I felt like I was farther away than what I actually was. But I was supposed to fight for Fury Fighting Championship in March, but in March of last year, that's when everything closed down. And unfortunately, my fight was canceled the day of, like 2 hours before the event. And it kind of threw me for a whirlwind, because I felt like that was the fight, a guy who was on the Contender Series, who I was going to fight was on the Contender Series. And I felt like that was going to be the fight that shot me across. That was going to be the one. And I was like, man, I needed that fight. I needed this. And it kind of shot down, and it was just one of those that kind of broke me. But at the same time, I was like, I need to work harder. You know, these short notice replacement fights, I can get this short notice fight. But then I got signed on to the Contenders, which to me was like the happiest moment I've ever had. And being able to like kind of just go back and think about it, whenever I got the call, my coach called me and just told me, he's like, you're on the Contenders. Man, I busted out crying because I just knew what my dad would be telling me and everything. And I was just, because my dad always knew that I was going to be here. He always knew that I was going to get to this point in time. And one thing that he would always tell me is like, look, you're going to be there. It's just a matter of time. Because you can, like, he's telling me, he's like, you have been consistent for so many years. And then, like, even as an amateur to now, as an amateur, I treated myself as a pro. Like I made it to every training session. I never missed. I never made any excuses. And like these last couple of times, if I ever lost a fight, I never blamed anybody else. I stayed professional, and I knew that I needed to work harder. And my dad would see that, and he would tell me, he's like, look, you're consistent. You keep going. You always want to fix what's wrong. And like, you're going to be there one day. And there was every single time that because my dad always loved going to my training sessions. So every time we would go down off of 45, and you're going down off of 45 into Houston, you're in Houston, you're going off of 45, and you're exiting that Scott exit ramp. You could see to the Toyota Center. The Toyota Center, every single time you exit it, I would always tell my dad, is like, my dream is to fight there in the UFC. That's the thing. He's like, yeah. He's like, he would always tell me, that was the biggest thing about my dad too, is that he never told me I couldn't do it. He always told me, he's like, if there's a will, there's a way. You can do it. If that's where you want to be, you work hard towards to get to that position. And it's just a testament to what my dad has always told me, is like, just stay consistent, be dedicated, and keep the hard work. No BS, and just keep going, and you'll be there one day. And he would tell me too, he's like, I have no doubt I have no doubt that you're going to be there, and with all the hard work you put in, you're going to be there.
You were very emotional in that post-fight interview, and reasonably so. You know, it was the highest point in your career. Would you say that as the highest point in your career was to achieve the dream both you and your father wanted?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was also one of those things too, that my dad was always in my corner. Yeah, my dad was always in my corner. Every single fight, he was in my corner. So like at the biggest point in my career for me at that time, it was just like I was happy. I was like genuinely happy that like I accomplished something that my dad knew that I was possible of. Like I was able to get there. I was capable to get there. It's just, even with all the stuff that's went into life, he knew how to get there. The part that kind of like what made me be how can I say it, sad at that moment was the fact that he was always there for every single one of my fights, and he wasn't physically able to be there. That like kind of like it was, as soon as it was brought up in the interview, I just remember just being very like man, I really wish he was there. It was one of those that like I could feel his presence, but at the same time, man, like I really wanted that, like, hey, like I wanted to hug him and everything. So it felt great, man. It felt great, but it was bittersweet because the one person who had always told me I'd be there, wasn't able to be there physically. So it hurt.
And then after that fight, you managed to go and actually take your UFC contract to his grave and showcase to him that you achieved what you both set out to do. How did it feel to be able to do that?
Oh man, it was, man, that to me was great, man. I was like so ready, so excited to go back home, because that was one thing I'd always promised my dad that I was going to get him a title. I was always going to get him a title, and I not that I haven't broke that promise yet, because I'm gonna be gunning for that UFC title. Like that's another aspiration, that's a big dream, and I'm gonna get it to him. But like I've had a couple of chances to bring him home a title, and I've never came through on my promise. That I promised, and that was like I know I know how it feels to break the promise. Like I was close to getting a title, not being able to go take it to my dad, and it would break me every single time. Like it would break me. So whenever I got the chance to get the contract, and I went out there and I started Brady Wong, and in that sense, like I was like, man, I did it, and I did it like this, and I get to go show the contract to my dad, and he was like, man, this to me was really fulfilling for me, and I was like, man, I did it. Like I go to him, it's like, you told me I could get here, and I got here. Look, I even got the papers. I didn't know that they were taking a picture of me. That was full on honest. I didn't know that they were taking a picture of me. I thought it was just gonna be just a me moment, but they took the picture of it, and I was like, well, I know people would love to see this. Just like keep pursuing and keep going. This is my story, and I'll let everybody else know.
I remember watching a fight. They said you were carrying a memento during the week of memory of your father. What was that memento? If you'd be willing to reveal with us, and what did it mean to carry it with you?
And I got the fingerprint necklace. My dad, whenever he passed, the funeral home made us fingerprint necklaces. So like every single time before I fight, I get to be able just to feel his thumbprint, which is really, really cool. And also my brother wears my dad's hat. If you ever go back and see some of my fights, my dad, he's wearing the red military hat, his Marine Corps hat, and on the bottom of it, it's signed by Cain Velasquez. So I remember back whenever I was, I think I was like 16, 17, and I wanted to have my first amateur fight. Like it was the same month. It was the same month that I had my first amateur fight, and I remember we waited in line, and we waited in line just to get a signature from Cain Velasquez, and I was like, man, this is my moment. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna let him know how I feel about him, because like this was the first time me meeting somebody who I idolized. So whenever I got to the front, I held up the line and just started telling like Cain Velasquez, like, thank you so much. Like you mean them, you don't know how much you mean to me at this moment. Like this is like, you're someone I idolize. You're a role model. Like I'm aspiring to be like you. Like you prove that like size isn't all that matters and all that stuff. It's all about technique and how you carry yourself. And I went off. I think I stayed there for like 5 minutes talking to him. He just sat and listened, and I thought that was very cool. And then my dad was right behind me, and he pretty much tells him, it's like, man, my son looks up to you, and if he looks up to you, you're a great person. And he took off his hat. He's like, I don't let people do this, but I want you to sign my hat for me. And he would wear it to every single one of my fights after that. And now I kind of wish, like, my only thing is I wish that the UFC was able to let my brother wear the hat. But my brother just takes it with him, and he just holds on to it. But so two momentum, it like got two little things. I got the thumbprint necklace, and then also like my brother's able to hold on to the hat. I just wish he'd be able to wear it ringside, because it always feels good, knowing that, like, because my brother, my brother, ever since my dad passed away, he's kind of been like the other positive male role model that I have. So it's great, and it was also like a kind of cool just for like my brother to get the hat, and like they tried to give it to me, but I told them it's not mine, it's my brother's. So I'm gonna talk to the UFC. Hopefully they can let him wear the hats.
Yeah, hopefully they can, because it'd be cool, because I know how much that'd mean to you. We heard you telling Dana White after the Dana White Contender Series, after you got that crazy knockout, help me quit my day job. What was the part-time job you were doing while balancing fighting?
Oh man, it wasn't a part-time job, man. It was a full-time job. I was a full-time. I was working 40 hours a week, and then on top of that, going to train and everything. Man, it for a good minute, man. It was brutal, man. It was real brutal, because it was hard juggling that, like trying to compete at the high level and still work a regular 9-to-5 job, still working 40 hours. My job was pretty much just like I was that jerk at the end of the month. If you didn't pay your water bill, I'm turning your water off. I hated being that guy, man. I never liked being that guy because, man, I can understand people in certain spots, that it's just like unfortunate things happen. You get your water turned off and everything, and I hated being that guy that would like a customer would come out. I'd feel very bad. Man, it's just like, man, I felt super bad about it every single time. But man, it was a difficult job, and it was like difficult to maintain both because I would have to wake up earlier, get a training session in, go to work, then get another training session in, come home, sometimes barely even get 7 hours of sleep, and then have to do it all over again. And then on the weekends, finally just to get to relax and be stress free and monotonous free, it was cool. But now that I'm able to train full time, it's been so much easier for me just to get my training sessions in. It's still hard work. It's actually doubled the amount in hard work, but I don't have the stress of having to go back to work, and I get to focus just on fighting, which is a big blessing to me, man, because this is exactly what I wanted to do, and this is exactly what I'm gonna keep going to do.
And now you get to concentrate on it full time. What have you been working on most during this time off? Because what has it been? It's been like 4 months. It's going to be like 5 months since your last fight when you fight. So what have you been working on during that time?
Man, anything and everything, man. I've been working on all of it, man. I try not to just focus on one thing. I try to get everything better at the same aspect. Like I want my striking to be as good as my jiu-jitsu. I want my jiu-jitsu to be as good as my wrestling. I want my wrestling to be as good as my clinch game. Like I want everything to be very well rounded out. And then also and right now, from what it looks like to everybody else, everybody's looking at my stand-up, just looking at it, just saying like, man, he must have really good stand-up. Let's try to take him down. So I'm expecting all this. So like they're gonna be like, all right, cool, let's see how his wrestling is. Then they're gonna be surprised whenever they can't take it down, or like they shoot him for a shot and they getting guillotined and all this. So I'm like, it's a good thing that I've only been knocking people out. So they're gonna get really big surprise whenever they try to take me down. They can't, or they get submitted. So it's one of those things that I've been working on a lot of things. Man, I just got my black belt back in December. So hey, man, it's one of those big things that hey, people. I showed it off for a little bit, but people aren't really gonna be giving me that much props anytime soon until they see me start submitting people in the UFC. So I've been working on everything, man.
And now have you got that next opponent, Gustavo Lopez? What do you make of him? Are you impressed by what you see?
Man, he's tough. He's super tough, man. His technique is good. I would like to say I'm better. I definitely feel like I say I'm better, especially in the striking department. I'm a little bit more technical, more crisp. I have better head movement. He does have a couple of things that he got. He has power in his hands, and he's really good at just being able to explode at some points. But man, overall, like I've seen that type of fighter many times before, and I have training partners who fight like him, and I don't feel threatened by him at all. Like I'm very confident. I'm very, very confident. But that dude is tough. He's super freaking tough. So I'm expecting to go 3 rounds, but I want to get him out in 1. Like my ideal thing is I want to get him out in the first round. I want another 50K bonus, and that's really what I want. Because like at the end, like closer to the end of my career, man, I want that record for the most bonuses, man. It's exactly what I want. Not fighter than that bonuses. I want performance bonuses. I want just me knocking people out like left and right, or submitting people left and right, whichever one. But as long as I get a bonus, that's all that matters. But I'm expecting to go 3 rounds because that dude can take a punch, and he's really, really tough, and he doesn't look like he slows down. And he took a fight on short weeks, on 6 days, maybe 9 days notice against Marab. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but he's a top 15 opponent, and went 3 rounds with him. So me looking at that, he's a tough guy. He's really, really tough. So I'm not taking him lightly at all. But if I'm going for technique, I definitely believe I'm the better fighter, and I can get him out of there in 1 round, just depending on the right circumstances.
Do you feel any kind of pressure now after that first your UFC debut, you had that spectacular KO. Do you feel any kind of pressure to kind of keep that up and give the fans what they want? Because you're an exciting fighter, so now will there any pressure on your hands to do that? And what is your prediction for the fight if you had to make one?
Oh man, like I just put the pressure on myself. Like as much as I love fans and everything, man. At the end of the day, they can turn on you like this. So I usually have my own pressure on myself. Uh, so I really don't like. I'm always looking. I'm like, I got to perform better. I got to do better than this. And I can always pick apart like what I did wrong in these certain fights. Like I'll go back to the Brady fight. I got hit by a couple of leg kicks, and I was like, I saw them coming, but I let them hit me. All right, I got lazy. Then he pushed me up against the fence. He hits me with a short couple right hands here and there. Then with Victor, I got a little too complacent in certain areas, and I should have moved a little bit more. So I can pick apart, and I'm always like putting the pressure on myself just to even perform better. So I'm always looking to outperform myself in each fight. I can always pick apart. So it's not necessarily the fans. It's not necessarily me just trying to show them like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. Like I just always want to outperform myself, and at the same time, if that's exciting to them, that's a double whammy for me. That's great. Like man, if I can entertain them, I always, and also too, like I know I always want the cleanest fights, but I also like if you go back to the Kyle Estrada fight back in LFA when they first debuted on the UFC Fight Pass, man, I'll get down and dirty. I'll get grimy, man. I'll go in there and have a fight of the night type of deal. I don't mind that at all. But if I can do it as clean as possible, that's the way I'm gonna do it. But if at the same time, if I can excite the fans, man, that's great too. I'm always cool with it. I do predict a knockout. I do predict that I will be able to finish him. I know he's going to be really tough to submit. He's really scrambly. He's really scrambly in transitions, but also I love being in those scramble transitions, especially whenever we're doing the wrestling. When we're doing the wrestling drills and we're out there going live with jiu-jitsu and everything, I love scrambles. So man, it's just one of those things that I want the knockout though. Like there's always a satisfaction of me knocking somebody out. Like if I get the submission, that's cool. And I've always admired like being able to submit somebody. But man, growing up and you've been watching boxing your whole like at early age, man, you just love knockouts, and that's what I plan on doing. I want to stop this guy. I want to stop him in the first, second round, but I'm ready to go all three.
How often would you like to fight this year? And once the pandemic's finished, once UFC can run events in different areas and different countries, is Toyota Center the place you want to fight most?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Toyota Center fighting at home would be absolutely amazing to me. That's one place where it has I connect with it really big because like that's wherever I saw like my first like big actual game. Like I remember went to the Rockets game a long time ago. I just remember just being there, and then also too, when my dad passed away 2 weeks later, I fought on the biggest stage at that point in my career. Whenever I fought for Bell, I did a one fight deal in Bellator. I fought at the Toyota Center. So to me, I look at that and I'm just like, I really want to go back there. I feel like a really good connection with like the Toyota Center. Like I'm able to get my fans, my family there, just to be able to like after you knock somebody out, I don't have to go back to the hotel. I can knock somebody out and I can go back with the family, party it up and everything, just have a good time with them. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to. I want to be able to do that again. But right now, if we're talking about traveling all over the place, I wouldn't mind going to Australia. Also, wouldn't mind going to Brazil if we were able to get that chance to go fight all over the world again. Abu Dhabi too. I wouldn't that's even possible now. I wouldn't mind going. Just that quarantine stuff is probably the only thing I'm gonna have a problem with.
Jacob Silva, your teammate, he fought also on a Dana White Contender Series. Looking at that fight, do you think he will make it into UFC one day? Are you confident he'll make it?
Oh, absolutely. He's very tough. As you can see, whenever he fought JP Buys, that dude's a stud. He runs over that guy JP Buys. He ran over a couple 35ers in in his wake before he got the Contender Series call. Like he fought on the same card whenever I fought Kyle Estrada, and he finished that guy in the first round pretty easily, pretty handedly. And he went in there with Jacob Silva. They're having their back and forth. He was like close. He got close on all the submissions, but didn't finish any of them. Like so, a high level grappler, high level like jiu-jitsu and wrestler, not being able to submit my teammate Jacob Silva. That says a lot about him because I think JP Bay is like honestly, I believe he's a top 5 contender in the flyweight division. He just needs to go out there and show it. He's a tough, legit guy. Then also too, he had that war with Jeffrey Molina, split decision. I believe he got the nod, just judging here and there, but it was such a close fight that it was a toss up either way. I believe that this guy like Jacob Silva is going to be in the UFC for sure. He just needs to fight, and especially right now, he's fighting March 7th.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They changed it to the 7th. It wasn't going to be March 6th.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, so he's gonna fight on UFC Fight Pass March 7th. So I'm super excited to see him back in there. He's fighting a tough guy, but I think Jacob Silva he has like power in his hands, and I think he's gonna hurt this guy. And then also we got my other training partner, Leomano Martinez. He's gonna be fighting as well. He's gonna be the co-main event to that card. So I got 2 training partners that both fought in the Dana White Contender Series, and I believe they both should be in the UFC now. And I feel like I'm gonna have 2 other training partners with me here pretty soon in the UFC with me.
What did you make of that JP Buys fight? Because it was very controversial in the way it ended. And do you think it'll be a case of third time lucky for Jacob Silva in terms of on the Dana White Contender Series, or do you think that Dana White, because Dana White is a big fan of him, it is clear, Dana White will just give him the contract at some point once he gets that record up,
Oh yeah, I think he's just a straight sign on as of right now. Honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, he fights this guy. If he puts on a great performance, especially with the debut of Fury Fighting Championship being like their debut, and he's main eventing that. If he puts on a great performance and let's just say he knocks this guy out in the first 2 minutes, I believe he's going to get a short notice call. But also they might want to save him to be the main event for a Dana White Contender Series. And he's training all the time. He's already had so many luck, so much like he's already been to the Contender Series twice already, close calls. But man, I think he just wants the short notice call. He wants to get straight on, which for me too, I would want him just to get straight on. He's like, man, the first one decision, it's a toss-up. You can go either way. And also that JP Bays one, man, I look at it and I was like, man, he wasn't out. At the time I was really mad. I was going nuts. Like I couldn't sleep. I went to sleep. Probably like around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because I was like that mad about it. But he wasn't out, and a part of me is just like he had a couple seconds left on the clock. It's like, I get it. You heard a little bit of gargling, but at the same time, he's not out. Like he's not out. He's trying to get a little bit of breath and trying to breathe a little bit. You have a couple seconds left. You can play with like I think he was like stopped at like 4 minutes and 57 seconds or somewhere along those lines. And I was like, dude, just give him an extra 3 seconds. Like I'm pretty sure he would get up just fine because right after the letting go of the grip, he just pops up and is like, I'm not out. Like I've put people to sleep and saying that they weren't out, but they're still kind of having trouble with just like getting up. He popped straight up like nothing happened. Like I've personally put people to sleep, not on purpose. They're all by accident. like doing jiu-jitsu, these guys don't tap, and I hold on to it, and they let go, and they're just like they wake back up, and they're like, I wasn't out. It's like, dude, it took you 2-3 seconds just to even get back up. Nah, he popped right back up like that. So, man, that one was real controversial, but I still won't take anything away from JP Bays because nobody like that I know, like, or anybody, not even Roberto Sanchez, who Jacob Silva fought, and he fought in the UFC. That guy is like, he goes to jiu-jitsu tournaments, he strangles everybody. And Roberto Sanchez fought Jacob Silva, and Jacob Silva almost had him to sleep like, well, 3 times. But he even had him in the same positions that JP Buys had, and he got nowhere near close to submitting Jacob. So it's one of those things that, like, I'm not taking away anything from JP, but I'm also just saying, like, I think that Mark Goddard should have let it go. He should have let it go. He should have let that. If the time was out, if he hit 5 minutes and then, like, once he let go, he kind of just, like, crumbled over and had trouble getting up, like, yeah, stop it. But if he gets up, like, regularly, like, he just gets up and is like, I'm not out. And, hey, I don't know. I can go on and on about it, man. But I believe Jacob Silva deserves a shot in the UFC, and I think he's gonna make some noise, man. He hits hard, man. He hits super hard. One of the hardest hitting flyweights I know.
Just finally, I saw you tweeting on Twitter around a week ago, I think it was now, with the weigh-ins. Fighters cutting weight, 4 fighters missed weight. I saw you tweeting about it. There was a lot of controversy about it. Do you think there needs to be tougher punishments for people that are missing weight and by a big amount?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I believe if you, like, I think, like, that woman, I think her name's Caitlin Vieira. She came in like 137. Or like 130, 138. That's, to me, that's more forgivable than the 140 or 140 and a half, or coming in a whole 2 weight classes above. And, like, you're supposed to be fighting at 45, but you came in at 157. He didn't even make the lightweight. Didn't even make the lightweight limit. So I'm just like, man, people like that, like the 40s, man, like you should know by the time you're cutting and you could only get down to 40, you should know that, hey, I can't cut anymore. Let me call these people. Like, man, there's a lot of things that you can do just to even make sure, like, hey, like my opponent be like every single time that one of my opponents came in overweight, they cut to 40. I'd be like, man, like, it pisses me off. Of course, I'm gonna take some of your money. But if I would have gotten called earlier saying that, hey, I'm gonna walk in, like, I'm gonna be at 140. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll stop cutting. I don't need to suffer anymore. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be a lot more happier, a lot more hydrated. You know, I'm gonna be good. But man, dude, like, no notice, no nothing. Like, they're just going in, they're just playing in, and I don't think 30% is enough. And that's like, man, I would like to see it boosted up a bit, man, even 50%, because a lot of these guys, man, to me, man, they go up there knowing that, like, it won't hurt their pockets, especially if they go on a win. If they go out there and they win, just like that dude Gordon, he fought that dude Danny Chavez. He went out there, even though that Chavez still gets 30% of his purse. To me, like, there was no, like, big risk. That other guy can still live off, like I kind of using the wrong phrase. He can still go out there and, like, be like, man, I'm good with this. Like, no, you got to make sure it hurts the fighter. So the next time they really got to make sure they make weight, man. They make it more stricter. And if they, like, people who fight, like, and come in, like, super overweight, like that dude came in like 12 pounds overweight. To me, man, I think there should be suspensions. Like, I really think that you should suspend somebody, because, like, especially, you signed a contract. You signed for that weight. You signed to be specifically at 135 or 145, 155, 170, 185, and all the above, and you come in, like, pretty much in another weight class, and you miss for that weight class above. So I feel like there should be suspensions, man. There should be much more, like, harsher punishment. And I could talk to my face is blue on this, man. Like, man, because it gets me fired up, because, like, man, in the regional scene, like, man, I can understand, like, a short-nosed guy coming in overweight. Like, to me, that's a lot more forgivable, because, like, hey, some of these guys come in at, like, a week notice or 2 weeks notice. Man, I understand it's hard. It's hard to cut the weight. But, like, if you come in like a month or 2 months and you've been knowing about this fight for at least 2 months, or even if you knew about the fight like a month away and then it gets rescheduled to another month away, man, you should be able to make weight easier. Like, I know there's a couple fights on that card that had that happen. Like, the fights get pushed back. You should be making weight easier. So, man, it should just be harsher punishments. And I don't think 30% is enough. I think 50% is a better number for me, because I know if somebody comes in at 40 for me, 30% isn't enough. You gotta be 50, 60, especially you come in, like if I come in at 35, you're coming in at 40, 41. Nah, it needs to be 50, 60, or else I'm not taking the fight, cutting your pay. So shoot, and I applaud those guys for taking the fights. Like they came in 5 pounds overweight. They had the option to not fight. And me, you come in at 40, you can't cut anymore. Sorry, man, we're not fighting. Let me take my show money and go on. Like in their contract is to get paid, like just to fight. So they don't even get show money for that. So they're being super nice, and I don't think that 30% is enough.
UFC 259 next week. Can we just get your predictions for the main event and also for the title fight for your division? Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling.
Oh yeah, man. Shoot, Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. And I literally watched Petr Yan versus Aldo yesterday. I was laying in bed and I was like, man, let me just watch this before I go train. So I was watching it, man. Petr Yan, man, he's tough. And he kind of played, to me, I felt like he played a little bit of possum against Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is a really tough guy, really, really tough, a legend in the sport. Absolutely, like one of the best featherweights of all time. And I felt like he was kind of like baiting Aldo in the whole entire time. He was like, of course, that first 2 rounds, it was a little bit shaky, like you kind of didn't see. But then in that 3rd round, 4th round, then 5th round, I was like, oh, nah, he's just kind of just baiting him in. Like he knows he could take the punishment. And those body shots that Jose Aldo hits, man, like a lot of people would have crumbled under that. But Petr Yan, anytime he took that body shot, he was returning with something else. So, man, he's super tough, man. He's super, super tough. And then also Aljamain Sterling, that guy, underrated, 100% underrated. I really believe that if he gets it to the ground, I think he submits Petr Yan. But man, that's gonna be a tough fight, and that's a killer fight. I don't know who to pick, but I like Aljamain Sterling a little bit more than I like Petr Yan, and I'm gonna go with Aljamain Sterling. Sterling, if he gets it to the ground, I feel like he's gonna submit him, and I think he said it himself in an interview. All he needs is one, and man, he made somebody like Corey Sandhagen. The guy literally just ran through Marlon Moraes, and he runs through Frankie Edgar, one of the greatest lightweights out there. You know, not even the undersized lightweight, and he goes out there and starches him in less than, like, I believe it was like a minute. Well, it was pretty quick.
Around
so
then.
Yeah, man, I can't knock. I'm not knocking Aljamain Sterling for any of it. I think he gets the win. I would say if it goes to the decision, I think it's Aljamain. But at the same time, if he gets it to the ground, he might finish him. But if anybody gets knocked out, it would probably be Aljamain. But overall, I don't think that's happening. I think Aljamain Sterling gets the submission.
And then for the main event, Israel versus Jan. How do you see that one going? Because it's a bit more in Israel's favor, but at the same time, Jan's got that knockout power, so you can never doubt him.
Yeah, that's the thing is it's the knockout power, and I'm kind of just really like, if I was a betting man, I would be like, he could knock him out. He could knock him out. So if I was gonna go out there and just like put $100 on Jan Blachowicz, yeah, I would definitely do it. But me, I know how good Izzy is. Izzy is a good distance finder. Like he knows how to set everything up. He looks for openings. Like every single second that he's in that octagon, he's laser focused in. He's seeing what the other guy does. He's playing mind tricks every little here and there. But Jan, he might not play into any of that. So to me, with that fight, if I was betting, I would probably go with I would definitely go with Izzy. But at the same time, I wouldn't be mad at somebody being like, hey, I'm gonna get Jan Blachowicz by knockout. And I'd be like, hey, dude, do it. And like that could be a big payout for you. That could be a really big payout because he has the equalizer, man. And also I think I just saw something, man. Anytime a middleweight has came up to 205 to fight Jan Blachowicz, he's undefeated in that. So I look at that and I'm like, look, he might do it, dude. He has the power. He made Dominic Reyes, who went 5 rounds with the best light heavyweight in the world, and he took him out in 2. And honestly, pretty much made it look easy. But man, that's a tough one for me. I would probably go with Israel Adesanya just because of his striking background. I don't think he's going to stay in front of Jan Blachowicz like Reyes did, but it's that power, man. That power. Just it's that eraser. It'll just erase everything that's in front of you. So yeah, I'm still going Izzy. Yeah, Izzy's technique is just really, really good. His distance, his timing, and he's gonna have the speed advantage. Yeah, I'm giving it to Izzy. No, I'm giving it to Izzy.
I love both of those title fights just because both of the fighters that are the underdogs, they've kind of thrive off being doubted and wanting to prove them wrong. So it's not like we know that they're clear underdogs. But also for your fight, the main event is Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson. Obviously, it's a while away, but how do you see that one playing out?
I got Kevin Holland, man. I can't go against my Texas homies, man. If you're from Texas and you're fighting, I'm rooting for you. So man, I can't get away from. Derek Brunson. You know, he's a good fighter. He does rush in a little bit with his chin high, and I feel like Kevin Holland will be able to expose that pretty quickly. Pretty quickly. I think the only thing that would have a little bit of a problem for Holland would be the wrestling and the clinch game and everything, because Derek Brunson is really good at that. But at the same time, in that same breath, I'm just not going against Kevin Holland as of right now. He's on a roll. He's on a streak. I know Derek Brunson I think he knocked out Ed. Forget his last name. Yeah, there we go. So he just finished him. So he's kind of riding a high, but man, Kevin Holland, man, he's on a roll, man. I believe he's gonna get it done, and I think he gets it done within the first 2 rounds. He's so relaxed. He's so relaxed that his punches that he throws, you're not gonna see it coming. And for someone like Derek Brunson, who kind of bull rushes in every once in a while, and he runs in with his chin high, I think he gets knocked out.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. Less than a month away now, and I'm guarantee you're pumped for that fight and for your fight, obviously.